I just want to talk about a little.
And safe with your mask.
So guys, I just want to talk about a little bit about what may have been the tipping point. Whoa!
Whoa!
That's a
fireworks.
That's a serious flashbang grenade. Oh damn! Unfortunately, there was a guy who was right at the location of the flashbang going off. He is kind of doubled over. He's got a scooter. It looks like he's going to try to walk away, but boy.
That was loud.
It would be really it was a miracle if that young guy didn't get injured by that. I mean, it went off right at him. But I was going to say that what seemed to have set off this latest push is that some of the protesters were getting a little bit more aggressive in confronting the police up close. Some threw some bottles, some plastic bottles with water in them. So I think the police sensed that the protesters were getting a little bit more aggressive, and so they felt that they had to respond, and they responded with some serious force.
Yeah, you know, Dan, this is not particularly pertinent at this moment, but it's in the context of the time we're in. I notice a lot of face masks, yours included. Good job. A lot of people wearing face masks. Of course, social distancing not too much in force during this time, but I do see a lot of people wearing face masks.
Absolutely, and you know, and I'm doing my best to stay away from people as much as possible. Dan, I don't know if you can see this now, but there are protesters who are taking newspaper stands.
Yes, I was seeing
parked a car.
It's like a barricade.
The police are firing on them right now.
Yes.
The police are firing. They're firing the projectiles. Now, these are not live rounds, but they're firing those projectiles at the people who have taken a car. And it looks like it's It looks like it's a car that they have outfitted before. There is a protest sign on the back of it. But the protesters parked that car there, and they brought some newspaper stands to try to make a blockade. This is just before 4th Street on Santa Clara Street. There's some protesters who are ducking behind that car. Boy, the driver's getting out. I saw some of the projectiles going through the passenger side window, and that driver has now cleared from the car. This is going to be an issue. The protesters are trying to make their stand right here. They're now putting other trash cans there. And clearly the police are not going to let that stand for very long, I would imagine, Dan.
No, I wouldn't think so.
For me, this evokes, I'm a musical theater fan, and I can't help but think of Les Miserables when you see a barricade go up like that, a blockade that people throw up. And it does worry me, Dan, because that tells me they are prepared for more serious back and forth and need that barricade to stay behind. What else are they bringing over? Let's see, they've got newspaper stands. What else do you see, Dan?
Right, they have some newspaper stands. There's trash cans, and that car is the main impediment, obviously. And I see a couple of protesters that are ducking behind that vehicle, pretty close. They're hiding directly behind that. Oh, I'm looking at now at the other side. That the vehicle definitely was set up for the protest. There are protest signs on this side, which is away from the police officers. But I tell you, that is the place you don't want to be, behind that vehicle. This afternoon, the fire from the rubber bullets and the flashbangs are typically going straight down the street, generally. So that is really the center of the danger zone in terms of being a protester. If you want to take a rubber bullet, it's going to be right in front of where the police are.
Right.
And now there are more people who are gathering behind that car. And boy, I don't want to see how this plays out.
No, and you run the risk of getting hit in the face by one of those rubber bullets or the eye. It can be very dangerous, as you've pointed out, Dan. And it's interesting. What we don't know are these people that we're looking at now with the car. Were they part of that protest on Highway 101 earlier? Are these other protesters that come in, as we've seen so often in the Bay Area, come in and join protests and escalate deliberately with police?
Well, it seems to me, Dan, that these people were prepared. Now, I don't know whether they were out there on 101 earlier, but that car was definitely part of the protest. They prepared to be part of the protest. And I'm trying to get a little close to see what's written on the vehicle, but I'm not going to chance it. I'm not going to get that close.
No, don't.
But they definitely were prepared. And boy, there are people just standing up right in the line of fire of those projectiles, and I just, boy, I just don't get it. And I got to say, Dan, that you make a good point again about watching out for your eyesight, for your eyes, and some of those projectiles were missing well high of the protesters. They were over their heads, and so typically you are supposed to be firing at someone's midsection or below
to sting them, but not injure them.
At least.
Dan,
exactly right.
They just brought in another piece of, is that a dumpster? Something they just pushed in for their barricade, for their blockade, which seems to be very heavy duty, that they're uprighting right there.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's actually some sort of a fixture. Looks like it's a display cabinet or a refrigerator.
Oh.
From my vantage point,
yeah,
it's got a glass front on it. It looks like it's got a cooling unit on top of it.
I think you're right, Dan.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, don't go away, and we're going to keep showing what's happening there in San Jose, but we also want to take our viewers briefly to Oakland because a protest is about to start there, and people are starting to gather, and our Eric Thomas is there with them. Obviously, watching what's happening in San Jose, Eric, that's got to make Oakland police quite nervous.
And they are, and they've been saying that. I think what's going on here, though, is there are two protests. That we were told there would be one at 5 o'clock. That is this one, which has been growing over the past hour. Maybe 100 people there standing peacefully with signs and chanting right on Broadway and right in front of City Hall. Now, if you look over here where I am, come back over here, Rick, that's not the protest people are concerned about. They're concerned about the one that's supposed to get underway at 8 o'clock. That's why all along this street, you'll see buildings like this with their windows already boarded up.
A few dozen people marched down Oakland streets yesterday, blocking several intersections, demonstrating their pain and frustration over the death of George Floyd during an arrest by Minneapolis police. That's as rowdy as it got yesterday. But today, police warn things could be different.
They just said that there could be some damage, and so we wanted to take precaution, that's all.
Danny Kaiser is chef at Sheba Ramen, a small restaurant across the street from City Hall. They've already boarded up the glass doors, and Kaiser says he supports the protest.
Another grave injustice has occurred, and people need to get out and talk about it. I hope that we're not caught in the crossfire.
Another business is taking a different approach. Joshua Chase owns Have a Heart, a marijuana dispensary across the street from Oakland Police Headquarters. He's put these handwritten signs in the window letting people know it's a black-owned business run by a kid from East Oakland. He's hoping that will deter any trouble. Still, he's planning for a long night.
So we're going to have a lot of staff here tonight. I'm actually going to be running security myself until very late this morning.
Oakland Interim Police Chief Susan Manheimer says the department supports the right to protest what happened in Minneapolis, but she has this warning.
If I could just remind everyone that OPD will have to take enforcement action if, in fact, there is damage to property or to the safe and peaceful demonstration of their voices.
Now, once again, we believe this to be a separate protest for the one that is scheduled for 8 p.m. tonight. A flyer from an unknown group has been circulating online about that later protest at 8 p.m. saying vengeance for George Floyd. I think that is what has a lot of people concerned. That's why Oakland police say they are ready to respond and to call in additional help from Alameda County Sheriff's Office and other surrounding municipalities in mutual aid if they are needed. They fervently hope that that won't be needed this evening. And of course, here at ABC 7 News, we'll be keeping track of what's going on here in Oakland, as well as what you've been seeing going on in San Jose today. And we'll bring that to you at 11 o'clock, if not before. Live in Oakland, Eric Thomas, ABC 7 News.
Hey, Eric, be careful, okay?
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's turn back to, on the phone, Mayor Sam Liccardo, the mayor of San Jose. Sam, you there?
I am.
Thanks for coming on again. We appreciate it. When we spoke with you last, these protests were quite peaceful in San Jose. Things have changed considerably. What are your thoughts?
Well, they have taken a turn, and we know we've seen an assault on an officer. We sent to Valley Medical Center. We've seen some damage, and obviously the officers have really stepped in, and they're not going to tolerate any violence, nor should they. So I think they're showing an enormous amount of restraint. We've had some of the protesters, most of the protesters are very peaceful, but there's a few that are obviously trying to provoke. There have been a lot of fireworks being thrown at the officers. There are various objects being thrown at them, and the officers are showing a lot of restraint. I think they're going to wait this out and be as patient as they need to be to ensure everybody goes home safe.
But you know what is interesting, Sam? They did make a decision to kind of begin to move these protesters and take control of intersections again. Do you have any idea why they decided to do that?
Well, the primary focus is just to disperse the crowd as much as possible. You don't want a concentration of folks when there are a few that are engaged in provocative antics. And so I can't speak to the specific direction of travel. I know they've been pushing them to the west, but it seems to be the easiest way to get folks to move on and hopefully either get back in their cars or walk home.
Okay.
Mayor Liccardo, I'm sorry if I missed it, but you said the extent of it was one injury?
To an officer.
To an officer that you know?
To a police officer, yes.
Do you know about just protesters as well, injuries there?
I don't have any reports yet.
Okay.
I have not seen any, and I have not seen anyone, for example, taken to an ambulance or a fire truck.
You know, and Sam, I know as mayor, you're in close touch with the police. Give people, I know the police are handling this in the moment, but give us a sense of what you do as mayor in coordination with the police department on an evening like this.
Well, my job is to let the professionals do their job, and this is what they've trained for. Chief Garcia and the rest of the team understand what their job is, and that is to do everything possible to ensure nobody gets hurt. And that's what they're going to do. I have a lot of confidence in them. My job is to stay alert to everything that's happening and ensure that we can get information out to the public. And obviously, if there's any resources that are needed, if there's any help from other departments, DOT, Public Works, anybody else, then obviously we want to make sure everybody's pushing together.
Now, at one point, Mayor, we saw some protesters try to enter a construction site, and they, in fact, got in before construction workers sort of pushed them back out. Have you been